I think we all take inspiration from stuff like that because we all like to watch anime, you know?
Right. Well, not all of us.
I have a question. Okay, all the really cool people. Let's face it.
Poor Looper, man. See, this episode is so long that, like, he essentially died in the beginning of the episode, and is, waiting for the episode to end before he can act again. And that's why we're moving away, and we're going to be moving toward more frequent but shorter episodes where everyone's not going to be in it, but there's going to be more episodes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so you have a higher chance of being in
it.
And what's cool, and Looper's character, okay, he's one of the more normal ones, which his players always bring up. He's like, oh, Looper sucks compared to everybody, blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, he's a perfect example, because look at what he did in his last episode. He fought toe-to-toe with Rasmussen until Rasmussen obviously went beyond a normal human's powers. But he was kicking ass, taking gang members out, protecting civilians. He, beat the shit out of Rasmussen. Like, that right there should give everybody hope that they can literally almost win anything.
Exactly.
Because while he may have ultimately lost, he obviously was successful in some of his roles to even get that far.
Right. Like, if Rasmussen's whole thing wasn't fucking losing his head and being able to still survive, because he's not, human like everyone else, that would have been a W. He would have been done.
Yeah.
He got Looper took his head off, man.
Looper fucked him up. Like, let's not even try to be nice about this. Looper wrecked Rasmussen.
You don't know how happy I was.
Him.
You don't know how happy I was when Looper sent me a submission saying, I want to specifically go for Rasmussen.
Yeah, dude, he's a badass.
And
he might spill soda on his carpet, but he's a badass. Well, see, and that's just it. You run with the roles. And an example of this is from a conversation you and I had, where I was like, dude, I can't believe I lost, because it was my solo series, right? I'm like, I should have just fucking been a hero that whole time. But I got my ass kicked by the trainer. And that goes to show that, because you had said I fully intended Rez to win, but the dice weren't in it. So he didn't. He lost. Which just goes to show that we can really trust kind of how the results go and that it's not really favored. Because I always make the joke that RTX is your favorite, which is why he's superhuman, but it's really not. If you listen to RTX's player, like, he's a stupidly smart guy who thinks about shit in depth, which is where the victories come from.
Right. So pretty much what happened with Looper was, like, I rolled, he lost to the event. It wasn't to a particular person. He lost to the event. The event had a difficulty that I had set in my head. But so after I determined that he lost to the event, I then, for the fun of it, I knew I wanted there to be an interaction between him and Rasmussen. And that role, he won. So that's why he gave Rasmussen those hands. But ultimately, the event had to come out on top.
Absolutely. And it'd be really cool to see, like, what happens when a player wins an event, right? Like, in this instance in particular, if anyone wins it, they're going to be like, holy shit, my guy's a badass.
Yeah.
But I just think it's really cool that you did the event role and then you did a more specific role because that's what his player wanted. Can you, I mean, just for us, can you kind of explain what happened to Jax? I mean, obviously he died, but like, how did that go?
Jax actually lost. Psycho washed him. Psycho washed him up. That's why she looks like she had the upper hand majority of the time. And then I have it written down. I
guess the big thing is Jax died to Psycho, and Psycho's a new player, right?
Yes.
So that's an average on average ranking, which breaks the rule of the 3-rank death rule. So how did that work out in your mind? So
that was the event that, though he lost, it looked like the event came and mopped him up, and that was why.
Okay, so we can view the events as like a superhuman or higher ranking, and if you beat a player and you're on the event side, it enables you to do more than you normally could.
So when he lost to, I pretty much lumped up the NPCs as the event. These are the difficulties of the event taking place, and the event taking place is that the city's in chaos because a certain day is attacking. But part of that chaos in that episode was the gang members, the Wang gang. Because you got to remember, the Wang gang is what killed Jax. what killed Jax.
Damn it.
It was
Wang Gang.
It was who's the main Wang Gang member?
Noxious Wong.
Noxious Wong roasted him while he was getting beat up by what's her name?
Oh, that's true. Yeah, yes. The event is actually the one that killed him.
Yeah.
See, and it's nice to get like explanations like that, because even though if I listen to it like 3 or 4 times, I still miss little shit like that. Like, to me, Psycho killed him, but you're right. Noxious nuked him with fire. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he cooked him alive.
Yeah.
So I kind of have another question for you. Since you pay attention to the Discord, did you notice that we might be one person?
Yeah, man, we're just here talking to ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm so good at editing that this whole conversation is just me talking to myself.
Hey, I'm just a hired voice actor. Right? I mean, you're paying me for this, so it's whatever. How did that I don't understand. How did that start? Did I miss something? That came around because, when I first joined, I was more than obsessed. I read all the lore. I was reading about everybody's abilities. I was listening to every episode multiple times, right? So I was like a hardcore fanboy. So when somebody would pop up with a question, I would answer it, right? And then it would either be so accurate that you didn't feel you needed to respond, or it's something that actually came true. Right. Because I had guessed well enough, right? So then it's like, okay, well now Rez is director, and that became a conspiracy. And then GIF Kai over here was like, oh, it's Die Rez Tor, even in GT chat, man, he's like, oh, he'll say something, he'll be like, oh, you can just make it true, right, director? And I'm like, no, fuck you, Makai. I was like, I'm not the director. No, so that's something that was born out of a lot of joking, but I think it's hilarious that it's lived this long.
I'm surprised that no one thought that I was the instigator. What are your thoughts on the instigator and the like? What is your whole theory in regards to these motherfuckers?
So, and here's what irks me. Gwydion, right? Instigator's player. I had him on the ropes of joining GT. Had him on the ropes. And then he's like, actually, I can't join GT because I have a secret character that's coming in later that you're going to find out, and it just wouldn't be right. I'm like, damn it.
Yeah.
Right? So then it comes out and Instigator's the person, and I'm like, you're telling me that I almost had the controller of the tank on our side. I was like, that would have been beautiful. But Instigator is such a smart creation, right? Like, if you look at the tank, we're all a G-type experiment, right? We're all trying to become the ultimate G-type, which is how I designed Rezinoc with all his powers. Is to become the ultimate G-type, but he's trying to create it, right? And so it was really cool to see somebody from an older pastime being the one to try to do all this, right? He's a lich, he's a user of the magical arts, and he's incredibly intelligent with technology, which means he's a combination of 2 different eras.
Yes,
man. So to me, that makes a really badass character.
Yes.
He's a really badass character, right? He might be this old, frail dude, but he's a badass, and people shouldn't underestimate him. And just think, like, the light is probably one of his creations. And the ability to think of and create and makes an entity such as the light work the way it does, its creator is a very formidable foe, more so than the light. And the light is wrecking everybody.
Church.
Right? So imagine if the instigator was on the field. We'd all be dead.
Yes, those are really good points, man. Those are really good observations. The instigator, just the combination of those 2 things. See, and this is what I respect, and this is what I like about the game, that he also, I think, is from the subreddit of long distance villains.
Oh, I believe it.
His character is from a D&D campaign, and he was creative enough to make it make sense for our world. And of course, I tweaked some things here and there, because everything is tweakable. It's all narrative. Everything is tweakable, and it just worked out so perfectly. His character, when he told me what his character was, I was like, "Yo, you're literally about to I'm going to replace an NPC that I had in place with your character, and you're going to play this
and because it fits so well."
Yeah, and he was totally down, and that's probably when he pulled out from GT, because around that time he was saying that he was part of GT, and I was telling him that, okay, cool, but how do you feel about playing this position. He was like, oh, hell yeah.
Oh yeah, it's enticing as fuck. Like, and it's funny is the multiple people have come from that subreddit, right? Long distance villains, and we all have our own image of a villain, right? Like, it depends on what level of villainy you want to commit. So Rezinoc starts from the bottom, and his ultimate goal is to be the top dog over villain and hero, which would, I mean, if you're going to rule as a dictatorship, you know, you're going to be viewed as a villain in some eyes. It's all about perspective. So that's how I built Rezinoc. But then you bring in someone like, I think Nom might have been recruited from that thread or something like that, and hers is being more of like a down low badass that can't be controlled. Like, that's her idea of being a villain, like being so free that other people might view her as a bad guy, right? So I think it's just really interesting how we all tether together.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to, I haven't advertised the game or put the game out there because I want to get control of what I got here. But the next batch of players is going to bring a whole new dynamic to the game. And season 2 already is going to be different. Season 2, the direction that I'm taking season 2 is going to be just as exciting, just as different. And, you know, every season I want to be different like that. I want to be able to, granted, not every player is going to be in every episode.
A badass.
Not every player is going to be in every episode, but there's going to be times where I'm focusing on a certain storyline, and I might need to pull on a few characters to achieve what I'm trying to express. And most of the time, I'm going to be basing the stories around the major and main characters that are always going to be in the episodes. And one of those characters is Jax Erlin. And I really am looking forward to just getting back to that street level, you know, of Gamma Haven, you know, the nitty gritty, you know. Right now we're in space, you know, magic cult members and, you know, all kinds of crazy stuff like that. But
yeah, there's several different layers.
Yeah.
And the street level can be sometimes even more exciting than, you know, like the god tier level.
Yes. So what are your thoughts on Poke Turner?
Dude, the moment I read Poke's card, I'm like, I need to meet this guy. Like, his power set, I'm going to talk about his power set first because that's from Rezinoc's point of view. His power set is one to be jealous of and to try to obtain, which is why I think I had initially tried to recruit Poke too, because I wanted to be able to use his power set.
What did he say?
And I don't think he ever got back to me, now that I think about it, which is smart because with enough time, I can almost convince anybody. But when he came out in the episode as like a playful little child who just loved wrecking things and causing harm to other players, I was like, dude, he's going to be such a beast, especially later on. And if he develops his powers, then Pokey's going to be one of the top contenders.
Yeah.
I mean, like we say, it's all about roles, right? As far as successes or fails, but his power set's going to enable him to do a lot.
Yeah, so Poke Turner is probably I think he might be the most dangerous character in the game, even more dangerous than Ivan, more dangerous than the Instigator. He's actually on another tier. There's levels to this shit. You know, just like when you think of Marvel, you have Galactus, and, you know, it's a food chain. And I like that. I like that everybody's going to have their own lanes, their own tiers. It would be interesting to see how Pokey uses that and how he decides on who he wants to mingle with and get involved with, because that can be game changing. And unfortunately, unfortunately for people who are not on the Survey Day side, such as Rezinoc,
he decided to mingle with anarchy.
Yes.